Okay, so we kind of talked a lot about, a lot of the negativity but, what would you say, are we in for exciting times going forward? And, you know, what about people who really don't know what's going on behind the scenes? Is there some light at the end of this tunnel? Is there some, happiness that people and prosperity that people are going to experience, in your opinion, from what you know?
Yeah, so the tea leaves are visible at this point. We can kind of see that a lot of things we've been discussing for years are now starting to happen. For example, XRP being used supports this thesis that I explained, that we're going to move to this level playing field, which is actually a line that Trump has famously been quoted for advocating for. And Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple's, also referred to this level playing field, that those who are on the right side of a history understand that, like, there is this small group of people who have very nefarious intentions, who have manipulated the money system and the education system and the food system and the health system to keep all of us in this oppressed place. Now that the genie's out of the bottle and many of us know about it, if they ever tried to do something like a COVID again, like, there's no way they would get the same reaction. There's just too many of us who are awake. The movement to blockchain money is going to be great for us and terrible for organized crime government. As I mentioned before, all the transactions are going to be public. They can't launder money like they were in the past. Moving towards asset-backed money, gold-backed money. There's a whole bunch of states, I think like 35 states or something in the US now have documents about gold-backed money. So each
Yes.
state may become its own republic and issue their own gold-backed currency, which means that the dollar system that really benefited the people who were closest to the money printer the most, it's changing, it's going away. I'm also a believer in NESARA, which is a kind of a controversial idea. I've made infographics on it. It's a very logical solution for the people, and there's a whole bunch of elements to it, but one of the main ones is to get rid of the IRS. Income tax is unconstitutional anyway, and it was really just used, back in the feudalism days, like when you had the lord of the manor and all the serfs, like you were a serf and you worked your field and you grew your crops, you had to give like a portion of that to the king or the lord of the manor, or whatever, because that's how the lord of the manor like ate. He basically stole it from the citizens who didn't have the power to fight back. That's what income tax is. It's literally feudalism, but in a more legitimate sounding package. So when that goes away and property tax goes away, like, why do I have to pay tax on something I already bought?
And then the
It's like
question
you're
is, do you
renting
really
your
own
house
it?
from the government.
Right. And then the question is, do you really own it? Because how many people have a mortgage, which is a whole other rabbit hole we could go down, but the whole issue of
Exactly.
mortgages and right. So, I'm a proponent and a believer in NESARA too. And that I think we could probably do a whole other show on, because there's so many facts and information and tenets to it that people can understand. But as you said, one of them is about, the IRS going away because of the reasons that it's not constitutional. It's not even part of the government, right? And as far as, that extending, right, because that's on our income, but then all the other taxes that we pay, where is that going and why are we doing it? And again, it's really coming after our income in some way, shape, or form, right? In these other ways that they
Mhm.
they title it. So as you were saying, that's something that looks like it's going to gel as with part of all
Right.
this.
So
Yeah.
also in NESARA is that the majority of the federal government just goes away, which is what Elon Musk and his Doge committee is with Vivek. Uh,
Yep.
because what's nuts is that the US government is now the largest employer in the world. That was never the intention of the founding fathers. Like, I'm a believer in, like, government should be as minimal as possible. The government is not here to give me permission to do things. They're not my authority figure.
Right.
I don't need to get their blessing to do anything. And I don't need to document my decisions and choices with the government. All of that stuff I think is going to go away, because if you find out what the birth certificates are really for, like, why do I need a document that says I was born? Like, it's obvious I'm born. Here I am. Like, why do I need to prove to you I was born? It's silly when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But
what are
there's
those
a
birth
deeper
certificates?
meaning to all that.
Correct. They're property records. It's like the if you don't understand what tokenization is, It's like literally the token of me as the asset. And that token then gets traded on these markets where they make money off of us, which is a dark, disturbing rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But a couple, just I'm going to digress for a second. Like about 10 years ago, I worked at a company and there's 40,000 people worked there. And some dipshit in accounting fell for a phishing scheme and sent the W-2 file for all 40,000 people to like a scammer. And these scammers like filed fake tax returns in like everybody's name, like almost immediately. The company owned it and they're like, we're really sorry. We have these support systems in place. Like call the IRS and sort of figure out what to do now. So I called the IRS and they're very pleasant. I was like, okay, someone has filed a tax return in my, can you check, have they filed a tax return in my name? Like, yes, they have. But the refund has not been issued to them. I'm like, okay, well, I'm me. That's not me. So please stop payment on the money. And they're like, no, ma'am, we cannot do that. But don't worry, when you file your return, we will issue you a refund too. I'm like, I'm telling you that those people are not legit. And they're like, no problem. I was like, all right, that's stupid. You're gonna pay out 40,000 extra, like double refunds or whatever, and you're not gonna do anything about that. That's bizarre. And I said, okay, I would like a new social security number. Mine is clearly compromised. They have my W-2. It has my name, my address, my social security, my income. Like they could go out and start a whole bunch of accounts in my name because they have all this information.
Sure.
And they're like, you cannot get a new social security number. I'm like, okay. And I was a little bit Karen, like, I'm like, all right, I'd like to speak to the manager, please. I'm going to get a new social security number. And they were so clear. They're like, there is no pathway at all. We're not even having this discussion. You will not be issued a new social security number. And I was like, this is stupid. If my debit card gets stolen, the bank gives me a new debit card number. Like, why is it such a big deal? I had no idea at that time about this whole market where we get traded as assets and our ID number is a social security number. So if you change your social security number, it messes up their whole
Their
shady
whole system.
market
And
thing.
and exactly. And then even when it comes to, when you think about the fact that, one of the things that was very disheartening for me to hear is that when you're born, right, we're on this maritime, law, which is all about the law of the sea and where words and semantics mean something and matter, right? We're not on the law of the land or, common law, constitutional law. And, is even like when when we're born and we're issued the birth certificate, everything we do from that point forward that we're traded on is traded based on every single thing we do, whether we go to school, that's why our social security number, it follows us everywhere. You apply for a job, you get married, you get divorced, you have kids, like everything is, what's this chattel worth, in this whole system. And people, were sold this whole line, years ago, many decades ago, about why this is important and why we need that and why we need that. And because everybody is kept down by this money system to just put food on the table and take care of their families, right? And God forbid, enjoy a Sunday of relaxation. Nobody really questioned, and then it's reinforced to us to think that these are all normal things for our benefit or that we just can't get around doing, just like you couldn't get around getting a new social security card. And if enough people said, well, why? That's where you have the army of the awakened that's happening now that are saying, no, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't, sound right. So yeah, so it feels like from between the technology, between the awakening of many people, the NESARA, all the things that go with that, which we'll talk about more at another time. It's like we are moving into, kind of as Trump said, like this golden age where things are going to hopefully start to really take down these systems that have kept us as slaves and now be able to give us more of our sovereignty and freedom. Would you agree with that?
100%. And I think Trump has taken on one of the most difficult jobs in the history of humanity to try to dismantle this corrupt deep state money system and all of the nefarious things that are tied to it. Talk about being demonized at every step of the way. And, he's an older man who's been through a lot. And so the abuse that he has taken, like the last 8 years, especially, has been unprecedented. And you've got to really have a backbone. It's why when people criticize his demeanor, I'm like, do you understand how tough you have to be to do what he is doing? Like,
Yeah.
when people truly understand that, like, I have nothing but appreciation and reverence for President Trump and what he has done and doing for all of us. It's freeing us from a horrible system, and to be on the other side of that is going to be so amazing. I think it's